We've seen here in the United States, and a number of countries in Europe have seen, in fact, Romania just said, we're going to cancel our election after a pro-Russian dark horse candidate was elected, apparently with enormous amounts of money and help, and particularly social media help from Russia. We're seeing Russia interfering in the U.S. election. We're seeing apparently a friend of Russia, Elon Musk, putting $270 million of his own money reportedly into the campaign. Is Russia playing a role in this in France as well? Are they supporting Marine Le Pen and the other hardcore right-wingers?
Yeah, I mean, there have been ties between the RN, National Rally Party, and the Russian state. Famously, there was a loan that the RN had to take out in Moscow when they were going through difficult financial times. So, there's that famous bank loan. Politically, the RN, it's quite interesting because they used to, when they were called the National Front, used to speak quite highly of Vladimir Putin and the Russian state as kind of an example of a country that's not afraid to show demonstrate its national values, that's proud of its national culture, that's independent, quote unquote independent foreign policy. So the RN, the FN, now become the RN, had this kind of fascination, almost idealization of Russia, and a lot of that they've have taken a step back from since the invasion of Ukraine, in part because it's just so unpopular. That's not a kind of politically savvy move in France today, that you support the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. So they've stepped back from making those kind of vocal support for Russia, but in some cases, there are ties. I'll just give you an example today in the context of the Syrian conflict. You had members of the RN who supported the Russian involvement in Syria. We had a lot of images have been resurfacing today after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, but you had a coalition of, so this isn't the far right, but the mainstream right, including now someone who's with the RN, National Rally Party, went on a visit to Syria, meeting with members of the Syrian government just a few years ago. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily the driving force in French politics today. I think that'd be a stretch to say, but you'd have this kind of fascination with Russia, and I think it's there's a certain kind of ideological continuity between the European far right and the Russian government. So it makes sense to kind of, like I said, look up to this country that you see as sort of upholding these conservative national values.
Right. We see that here in the United States too, particularly with people like Tulsi Gabbard, who well, whatever. Cole, I have a minute and a half here until I hit a hard break. How do you expect this all to play out?
Well, I don't think anyone can give you really a clear answer to that in France. Anyone who tells you they know what's going to happen isn't telling the truth. But we have, like I said, it's an evenly split, pretty closely split political situation here between three main blocks. I think, if you're on the left, what was quite encouraging was that the left-wing parties decided to unite for those parliamentary elections that Macron called for. And the left, like I said, had a slight plurality, which is an encouraging sign. The problem now is that it doesn't look like Macron's going to name a left-wing prime minister. It would be very surprising if he did. And the left is going to have to try to conserve its very delicate unity that it has. It's already fraying right now. Some people want to meet with Macron and participate in maybe a new government. Others are a hard no. And I think the most important thing for the left is how do they stay loyal to those voters that said no to the far right, that said no to Macron, that want the left to offer an alternative vision? That's going to be the challenge for the left, and hopefully they can, the leaders can figure out the right way to do that in the coming months.
Fascinating, fascinating. Cole Stangler, one of our great reporters out there, based out of Marseille, France, contributed to The Guardian, The Nation, occasionally on France 24, French television. I see you from time to time there, Cole. ColeStangler.com and Cole Stangler over on Blue Sky. Cole, thanks a lot for dropping by. I so appreciate the information.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Tom, as always.
Always a pleasure. I'll be back on the other side of this break in just a moment, 48 minutes past the hour.